In the last video, we introduced the idea of algebra, and we said that algebra revolves around variables. Alright? And that's the whole goal of this video, is to really talk about what variables are. Because this is the underlying foundation to really what defines algebra compared to arithmetic. And so, before we can even answer the question, what is a variable, I want you guys to think of what comes to mind when you guys hear the word variable. Feel free to pause the video and make a list if you guys would like. I'm going to assume that you guys already did so. So, if you guys thought of first, one, a symbol. Two, some sort of relationship. Or three, some sort of quantity. If you thought of these three, you're not entirely wrong. These are actually common responses that I receive when I tutor and teach algebra. Variable is actually all three of these things. It could be anything. So it's a symbol to show relationships and quantify something. All right, and we use, in fact, in a bunch of mathematics, we typically use letters, and we also typically use the Greek alphabet, such as, so you'll commonly see in math books X and Y. Those are common, but any letter of the alphabet works. Me personally, I define my variables. I always say let a letter represent something, be something. And along with letters, you'll also see commonly delta. Especially once you move up higher in mathematics, we start using Greek letters because we start running out of our own letters in our alphabet. But as long as you understand what the variables are and you clearly define them, if you're not using typical convention, you're all good. That's really what mathematics is, at least in my book. I know some teachers would dock you points if you don't use their variables, but as long as you define them, in my book, you guys are fine. So, now, we said that variables are symbols that we use in mathematics to show relationships, and we also use them to quantify something. So, we could quantify the number of apples, so say we have 4 apples, and a number of oranges. We could say n is the number of oranges. Or if we have, or if we sleep 3 hours, and you wake up, with it, n could be the numbers of hours you potentially could have lost, and so as you guys see, we create expressions, which actually is the next topic. We create expressions using these variables to quantify things. We start these to establish relationships between real world examples, and we could also do this to make things simpler in our cases, in a lot of cases, which we will be doing soon. And pretty much, we do this a lot of mathematics just to keep relationships clear to people. Instead of constantly writing out long paragraphs, we just take a relationship and just put x equals something, or y equals something. So you'll commonly see x is equal to something, or y is equal to something, and we're in algebra we study these variables and the relationships that we cause by set m equal to something. Okay, so now we have 3 types of variables. Alright, there's 3 types, and they're all listed here. The independence variable, and this is, in my opinion, the most straightforward. Alright, it's the variable that stands by itself. Alright, you don't need to rely on anything. Okay. So think about it like this, okay? So if we have y is equal to mx plus b, alright, this is the equation of a line, which you actually study later in Algebra 1. This is the slope-intercept form, alright? Our independent variable would be x, in this case. So the independent variable relies on just a number being plugged in. Okay. So if we are only worried about x and y, x would be the independent variable because we're plugging a number into x and we're getting out a y. And so that's the independent variable. So it changes. It changes as we choose, as we see fit. Now, if we have an equation, it doesn't work that way. If we plug in it doesn't necessarily work that way. We would just plug in a number, and that's how we see it fit. But we wouldn't be able to add or subtract something. But if we were in an experiment, we could change our variables just to see how things would move and change as we just play around with things. That's really all of mathematics is just people playing around with things. Now we have the dependent variables. Okay. The dependent variable depends on the independent variable. So if we go back to our y is equal to mx plus b, this idea that that we plug in something to get out of y, our y, we plug in something into x and we get a y. That's our dependent variable. All right, so this is dependent variable. All right, this will be our dependent variable, and the reason being is because we put something in x and we get something out for y. And I know I'm repeating myself. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to put emphasis here that if we have something is equal to something, if we have one quantity equal to another with variables. If we plug one thing into something, it has to spit the other quantity has to spit something out, meaning in every single case in algebra and even in physical sciences when we're doing experiments, there has to be an independent variable to have a dependent variable. So a dependent variable pretty much is just it relies on the independent variable. All right, now I do want to. So let's do an example real quick, just a mini example. All right, x plus 3 is equal to y. All right, this is a simple case. Okay. Now, if we plug in a 1, so if we say, okay, well, let's let x be our independent variable. Let's plug something into x. We'll get something out for y. So if we plug in 1 for x, we get 1 for y. We get 4 for y. Okay. So if we create an XY chart, 1 for x, 4 for y. Or if we plug in 2 for x, we get 5 for y. As you see here, that as we're spitting out values as we're plugging in values of x, it's spitting out different values of y. And so it's clearly to see that as we're changing our numbers as we see fit, that's our independent variable. We see that our dependent variable really relies on the independent variable. And there's one more type of variable, and it's called the control variable. The control variable is a very special kind of variable because it allows us to set things constant. So a control variable, which is right here, it's what we call a constant variable. It's what we call a constant. It never changes. All right? So if we go back to our y is equal to mx plus b, our constant or control variable would be called it would be b, because as you see here, it never changed once. It never changed once. Or if we look at the example we just did, x plus 3 is equal to y, 3 never changed. X and Y did, but 3 never did. So we could always set something constant to see what happens. And in fact, that's how a lot of experiments are done. In fact, this is important because we could. This is very important. All right, so especially in medical trials. All right, because think about it like this. Okay, so say there's a new medicine to help cure a sickness, and so there's 3 people. Okay, and we're testing the side effects. All right. So so 2 people will get the pill. So 2 people will actually get the pill, and we call that the independent variable. And and the side effect, and these people might see the side effects. Think about it like this. So it's just like our equation above. If we gave somebody pills, so that's like plugging in a number for x. This new type of medicine, testing it on people or even animals. And we want to see the side effects. So the side effects is our y. So we get the people, which would be the pill, and the people getting the pill is the x, and then the side effects would be our y because it depends on the pill if they got the real pill or not. Now our control variable, which is our constant, would be somebody getting a sugar pill. Okay, so a sugar pill, in this sense, would give no side effects, but we could see psychologically what it would do to the people that are thinking that they're getting it. So that's how experiments are done within the medical trials. We see this in physics, we see this in chemistry, and all branches of science really. But with that being said, guys, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys in the next video.